I would now like to welcome back our lovely guest. She is a comedian and performer with Lady Parts Justice. Please welcome Sharron Paul back to the stage. This is my Leslie note binder that I used for the show. Nice. I just wanted to make that clear in case anyone looked at this horrendous thing and thought, what is she doing? I need it. Welcome, Sharron. We're so happy to have you. Thank you for just doing an amazing balls-out job on our position paper. Another round of and you, like many of us here, are a comedian. Can you tell us a little bit about Lady Parts Justice and what the mission is and what kind of work you guys do?
Okay, cool. Lady Parts Justice is a nonprofit organization that was created by Liz Winstead, who was the creator of The Daily Show. And we are a rapid response hub, and our goal is to expose what's going on in the repro rights community. So we're all about destigmatizing abortion, making sure women have ample access to health care. And by doing that, a lot of the times we'll release things like memes and videos and blog posts about what's going on in that scene, but also we will go and do kind of like a USO tour to clinics across the nation because they have no support. And there are some states like Mississippi and Alabama who only have one functioning abortion clinic open because of things like trap laws. So we'll go and show the clinic workers and volunteers and the actual providers support. Like we'll do shows and parties and run errands for them.
Wow. Can you explain what trap laws are for those people in the audience who might not be that familiar?
Okay, great. Trap laws are, I don't want to misspeak, but trap laws are laws that are placed upon abortion clinics and abortion providers, doctors, that stop them from being able to perform with ease. Like, say there's a clinic that's a women's healthcare clinic. A law in a certain state will say that that clinic cannot admit abortion providers and women who need the services because it has to be a fully functioning hospital. And you have to be affiliated with the local hospital, but what happens is it's kind of a trap because they'll be affiliated with the nearest hospital that's a Catholic hospital, which wouldn't perform abortions in the first place. So essentially it's outlawing abortions in hundreds of counties across the country.
Yeah. So essentially, because they can't overturn Roe v. Wade, they find all these other sort of loophole laws and trap laws, as you say, to try and stop these services from happening in a lot of these places.
Right.
So how did you get involved with Lady Parts Justice?
Actually, it all started with a Facebook post.
Many things do.
Yeah. Another comedian, Kaitlin, she posted, which is like, hey, ladies, are you interested in getting involved with a thing? And I was like, I like things. And so Liz was hosting a dinner party at her house to figure out if people were interested in getting involved with this thing that she was getting started. And so I literally went to Liz Winstead's apartment, and she she literally welcomed me with open arms. I walked in and she greeted me like a friend she'd known for years. And I liked what she had to say, and I was like, this is something I can get involved in, and I've stuck around.
Nice. So tell me a bit about, we're talking about limits, and we've talked a lot about reproductive rights and those kind of limits. What about bigger sort of large world limits? Have you ever felt that your own sense of self or your ability to achieve things in this life has been limited in some way because you are a woman?
I feel like there's sometimes where I might think about stifling myself and not saying everything that's on my mind, not because I'm a woman per se, but more so it's just like because you're a lady.
Right.
You understand the distinction that I'm making there?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, it's like sometimes like certain things aren't ladylike, so you want to censor yourself, and it's just like, oh, that's gross, no one wants to hear that, or it's not becoming of a lady.
Yeah.
Like I feel like sometimes I hear everyone's grandma in my head, and it makes me think twice about things I'll express.
Does that come across in your comedy ever? Do you ever feel like you're stopping yourself from doing something comedically because of that thought?
No, like when I'm on stage, I feel like I am my truest, bluest self, and like anything else.
That's nice. That's nice. What about we sort of talked about the sense of limits as in physical boundaries, Antonio Boundaries,
which is my favorite thing.
Ours too. has there ever been a time that you felt like your physical space has been invaded or your personal boundaries have been invaded because of who you are as a woman?
Just being a woman in period, yeah, just like in Antonio's song about guys, they put their hands on you instead of saying, excuse me, that happens all the time. I've had people like touch me on the train inappropriately, just because they think it's okay. That happens all the time.
Right. How much of that do you think, I'm gonna go there, how much of that do you think is because you're a woman of color? How much more is that boundary crossed, do you think?
Oh, plenty. There was one guy who like assaulted me on the train, and it was weird. I was on the phone waiting for a train at Atlantic Avenue, and this man comes up to me and he's like touching me and talking really low, and I'm thinking he's like, I don't know, I thought he was asking for directions or something.
Yeah.
But he was asking me for money, and I was just like, no, I don't have any. He got so angry, and he was like, you black bitch. And I was just like, oh, well, that's who I am today then. All right. That's fine.
That's who I am today is like the female motto.
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, how many women in this room have been physically, like, had their space invaded? How many of you have had it invaded today? About a third. Alyssa's clapping. Slow clap for invasion. I feel like that's one of the biggest things that comes up for every woman, regardless of who they are. It's this odd thing. I'm not saying it doesn't happen to men. I'm certain it happens to men in other ways as well, but there's this huge, weird, permissive thing that happens in the culture when you're a woman.
Oh yeah. People think they have some sort of ownership over you.
Yeah. It's intense and insane. Does that ever, when you're doing, like, tell us a little bit about your comedy and the kind of shows that you do. And do you think that there's, aside from Lady Parts Justice, is there sort of political aspects to the comedy that you do as well?
For the most part, it's not necessarily too political, though. I have done plenty of political shows, even outside of Lady Parts Justice. I guess it's political in the realm of, I do talk about blackness a lot, and that's easily politicized. You know, they say the personal is political.
Yeah.
And to that degree, sure, but I'm not talking about people who are running for office or anything like that. I'm talking about my personal experiences.
Yeah. And you do a show called you do stand-up, right?
Yeah.
So, have you ever had like an intense sort of heckler experience or something, or a club booker experience that sort of defines this weird notion of femaleness in comedy?
Thankfully, I've been really blessed to not really deal with many hecklers. It's been great, and it's never been an attack on femaleness or anything like that. There was one comedy club booker who, he'd asked me what I do and my credits and stuff, and I told him about Lady Parts Justice, and he thought it was laughable. Like, he was just like, Reaper writes, ha! Like, how dare women think they can do stuff with their bodies in their lives?
Do you want to talk about who that was and where they was? Well, if you want to tell me later, I will whisper it to everybody in this room. That's how we'll spread it around. So we talked a little bit about in the opening piece about how the ways that women limit themselves. Do you think that is? I feel like that there's a part of us that feels like the reinforcement of patriarchal notions of lesserness, and we sort of have to bat our way through that. Sort of semi-related to what you're saying about thinking about your grandmother being there. There's this sort of decades and generations back notion of like keeping sweet, as they say in like fundamentalist Mormonism.
I'm very familiar.
In case you wanted a religious lesson. So, do you think that this is something that we can, as you said in the opening, fuck? Like, can we say fuck it and get rid of this in our lives? And how does that happen for us?
I think we can say fuck it when we realize there's, I guess, it sounds funny saying this in regards to this, but like a time and place for everything, where I feel like the time for limiting ourselves it's passing. Like, we're realizing that we're equals in this world, and we can strive for what we want, and we can say what we want. And it's kind of a personal thing, but I almost want to say cultural for women.
Yeah.
To put themselves second.
Yeah.
and we think we're not necessarily worthy of certain things.
Yeah.
And we doubt ourselves constantly, where men go out balls to the wall, whether they're good at a thing or not, they're gonna do it, and don't you dare doubt them.
Yeah.
Where we're on the opposite end of the spectrum.
Yeah. But you think that that is, I feel like that shift is more palpable.
That shift is definitely happening because we see women in positions that we've never seen them before.
Mm-hmm. And shouting about it.
Exactly,
Yeah.
very loud and proud.
Yeah, yeah, great.